Responding to scenario one. I can tell that you're having a hard time and that this is really weighing on you. You want to have friends and be liked by your peers at school, but you're having a hard way of figuring out how to do that. Friendship and acceptance are healthy desires to have, especially in your teenage years. However, unfortunately, bullying and careless thinking is also an attribute of teenage boys because their frontal lobe, which is where all their decisions are made, are not fully developed yet. Both my boys have had a hard time at school. Some of it is because they inherited their slow height from their dad and were teased because of it, while my other son just didn't seem to fit in well with the other kids. Have you tried joining groups where you are with other kids that enjoy the same things you do? When we find other people that enjoy similar things, it's easier to make those connections of friendship. Do you enjoy anything like sports or music, maybe science or art? I would encourage you to first learn to like yourself and know just because you're a little smaller now doesn't mean you're always going to be that way. My boys are taller than me now, and I'm sure they will continue to get even taller. They have made some good friends as they pursue activities and hobbies they are interested in, and I'm sure you'll make some really good friends too. Responding to scenario two. I can see that you're nervous about being dismissed because of your current grades. What caused you to be interested in attending BYU Idaho, can I ask? If you're interested in coming for going to school, then how do you feel you have prioritized your education? What do you think can help you develop better study habits so that you can do better in your classes? Have you been able to meet with an academic counselor? I know that there is a class you can actually take from BYU Idaho that teaches you how to develop better studying skills. Maybe this would be something that would interest you. As I've been taking classes from BYU, I find it really hard to balance my personal life and my responsibilities with my educational studies. I find ways to procrastinate or get distracted. One reason is because maybe I'm just not fully committed to obtaining a degree right now, and I wonder if this might be something that you're struggling with as well. I know that BYU can be a lot of fun, and there's a lot of fun things to do. However, I do not want to waste my time or money that I've invested. So I've found that writing down how much time I need to spend on classes or create a calendar or set limits on my phone can really help me out. What options have you considered to help manage your time better? Responding to scenario three. I appreciate you feeling comfortable enough to share what's been going on with your boyfriend. I'm sure it took a lot of courage to open up and disclose that to someone else. You expressed that you're living with him, and it is obvious that you really care about him. Can I ask a personal question? Um, how many times has he promised to not hurt you? And how many times has he promised? Um, and how many times has he kept that promise? Can I share with you about some of my friends and family that has gone through similar situations? So I have both on side of my family and my friends who are married to people that were narcissists. And firstly, do you understand what the traits of a narcissist are? My siblings and my friends that they were both married for over 20 years and they tried over and over and over again to help their spouse. And after continuing promise, their spouse continued to promise that they would do better, that they would not lie, or they would not emotionally abuse or physically hurt them. Unfortunately, narcissists kind of follow a pattern and they don't recognize the pain that they're inflicting. They're reluctant to change. Everything's all about them. So after all this time that they spend investing, try to help their partner change, it really was destructive to them and their children and ultimately led to divorce. It led to their children being inactive in church. Um, it caused a lot of emotional trauma, a lot of PST, a lot of counseling that they had to see. So I'm deeply worried about you staying in a physically emotionally, spiritually really abusive relationship, and would recommend that you really consider what ramifications that this could have not only on your life, but any children that you have down the road. Do you want them to be treated how he treats you? Because if he's going to treat you this way, then will he really treat the children any differently? Um, if you need, I can really recommend some good books for you, or possibly even a counselor if that's something you're interested in. Responding to scenario 4. I can tell from your body language that you really don't want to be here, but you must have someone that really cares about you if they wanted you to see me. Do you feel like your parents care about you? Why do you think that they would worry about you drinking and choosing friends that support that kind of behavior? You mentioned that you can't wait to drop out of school. So do you have plans for a career or pathway to support yourself if you leave home at this point? Can I share something personal with you? When I was in junior high, my friend group, they didn't attend church. I don't even think they attended church at all. And they were experimenting with cigarettes, marijuana, drinking, sex in junior high. And I was really confused as this went against how I was raised and my church beliefs. And I ended up making a friend at girls' camp that later became one of my best friends. She was really strong in her beliefs, and she was a good example to me. And I really admired her and wanted to be more like her. And so I ended up separating myself from those friends in junior high, and their influences, and chose to follow who I really wanted to be. So sadly, as high school progressed, this friend of mine that I looked up to so much, she ended up making some bad friends and ended up being influenced by those friends that introduced her to smoking and drinking, sexual relationships. And I was only 23 when I got a call that she had been murdered, coming back from a bar late at night. So, what I'm trying to say here is that choices have our consequences, not only just to you, but to all the people around that love you. Do you think that your decisions are ones that are going to ultimately lead to success and happiness? Do you think your friends at this point right now really care about your success in the future like your parents would, um, or your aunts and uncles? What I've learned is that it's really important to find mentors, to find people that have that success in life that you want and follow the pathways that they have. And do you see these friends having pathways that you have? And do they have that success? I just would strongly encourage you to think about these things and recognize, as you've mentioned, you recognize that your parents really do love you. Responding to scenario 5. I am so sorry for your wife's passing and can tell that you really loved her. I bet it's been really hard with her being gone. I'd imagine that you may feel a little lonely with your kids living in other states and not being able to interact with them or your grandkids. You mentioned that you stopped attending church and other activities that you used to do regularly with your wife. Is there a reason that you chose to stop going to church and those regular activities? I know that you may feel a little lost and lonely. I've seen this with my own parents or my in-laws after they lost their partner of close to 50 years, but I could tell you that you are important and that you still have a lot to give. I wish that my father, he's alive today, would take more interest in talking with his grandchildren, my kids. And I know that they'd learn a lot from him and his experiences that he's had in life. Even with my mother, when she was far away before she passed, I'd spend hours on Skype talking with her, just being with her, which was enjoyable. And I got to share with her my children and what we were doing. I'm sure your grandkids would love to hear your stories or experiences that you had. I also really have found a lot of comfort in the relationships that I've made with the elderly people at church. And I've drawn a lot of strength from their experiences and wisdom. I would encourage you to return to some of those social gatherings and not underestimate the impact that you can have on others in your community and at church. Responding to scenario 6. Hi, I appreciate you coming to meet me today and want to encourage you in accomplishing so much through your progress while you were in jail. You expressed to me that you really want to maintain that positive pathway and are worried about falling into old habits and losing the progress you've made if you resort back to any old lifestyles and friends. For you to recognize that you need to find a different pathway is starting. Have you heard that misery loves company? Do you know what that means? Sadly, your old friends may not understand this change you've made and will intentionally encourage you to make bad decisions just because they don't want you to have the success that they aren't willing to make themselves. I had a friend in high school who was doing marijuana, and I encouraged him to stop. And he did for a week till his dad came back from work and encouraged him to smoke with him again. I later met his older brother, who was this really handsome guy, but his brain had been destroyed by drugs. In life, we have to choose what pathway we want to go down. And sadly, sometimes this means leaving people behind who are going to intentionally be destructive to our well being. If you do not have friends to encourage you and brighten your own light, you may want to ask yourself if they're really the friends that you want to keep. Responding to scenario 7. I'm really happy that you could meet with me today. I know that school's been hard for you and that you're having a hard time understanding why your classmates are being mean to you. Sadly, girls at this age are just really mean. They find petty reasons to be mean to other girls, and they do it without understanding how it can really hurt somebody down the road. I know that my daughter, while she was going through 13, 14, 15 years old, had some girls that just would say mean things, and it really caused her a lot of anxiety. It caused her a lot of pain. And she, like you, started kind of isolating herself from these girls because it just kept hurting her so much. I know my niece has gone through similar experiences, and there's really no answer if you're trying to understand why they're being mean. You can look at bullying, like it makes them feel better to themselves. They might get something from it. But for you um, to maintain your own beauty and to move forward, you can't let those people change and decide who you are. You have to see the beauty in your own self and to find friends that see that in you and help bring that out as well. So for my daughter, we ended up moving and she got new friends and a better support group, which changed her attitude immensely. It changed her confidence immensely. Now, I'm not saying you have to move, but I'm certainly saying that stepping away from those destructive group of girls might be what you need. And that's something that you need to discuss with your mom on how can you get away from the situation that is causing such anxiety in your life at this time. Does that mean going and talking to a counselor at school? Does it mean talking with teachers or the principal and explaining kind of what's going on? So I just want to let you know you're a beautiful girl, you're kind, and I can really see that in yourself. And those are the things that you need to focus on.